Again, if you're here to speak and you have not turned in a comment card to the board secretary, please do so. They will not be accepted after the meeting has begun. Good evening. I would like to call the Peoria Public Schools Board of Education meeting for April 12th, 2021 to order. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costick. Okay, calling the roll. Mrs. Costick. Here. Mr. Kloss. Dr. Rankin.
Here.
Mr. Walther.
Here.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mrs. Ross. Here. President Shaw.
Here.
We have 7 present.
Thank you. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on to announcements, we'll start on the phone. Vice President Wilson.
Thank you, President Shaw. 1 second. Wednesday, April 21st is Administrative Professional Appreciation Day. Please remember to thank your school's cheerful and organized administrative assistants for all they do. Thursday, April 22nd is National School Librarian Appreciation Day. Peoria Public School librarians have been invaluable this year, helping distribute streams and encouraging our students to continue reading each day during remote, hybrid, and in-person learning. Thank you to all PPS school librarians. I have another one as well, President Shaw. The Peoria Grow Your Own program, coordinated by Tree Wind teacher Linda Wilson, is currently accepting recommendations and applications for the next cohort. Grow Your Own provides mentoring, academic, and financial support, and a cohort of fellow aspiring educators of color. Grow Your Own graduates also agree to teach for at least 5 years in Peoria Public Schools. Please go to the district website to recommend a current paraprofessional, student, non-teaching staff, or unlicensed teacher, or complete the application yourself. If you have any questions about the Grow Your Own program or the application, please email Linda Wilson at linda.wilson@psd150.org.
Thank you, Vice President Wilson. We'll start on this side tonight. Mr. Walther.
Thank you, President Shaw. Peoria Riverfront Museum Student and Family Pass. PPS families, there are just a few more weeks to use. Visit the Peoria Riverfront Museum with your free student and family pass. Students who complete all 3 museum experiences by May 1st, watch a movie, explore an exhibit, and see a planetarium show will win 2 passes to see T-Rex, the Ultimate Predator, an internationally acclaimed exhibition opening May 29th. The T-Rex, the Ultimate Predator, sponsored by CEFCU, travels directly from its creator, the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. And I have a second announcement. The Randy Simmons Scholarship Golf Outing will be held Saturday, May 8th at Madison Golf Course starting at 9 a.m. The Randy Simmons Scholarship honors one graduating senior from each PPS high school demonstrating leadership, high character, respect, and honor in pursuing a post-secondary degree. For complete details and to register online as a single golfer or as a foursome at www.raceroster.com. Corporate scholarships are also available.
Thank you, Mr. Walder. Mr. Klaus.
SAT exams, Peoria Public School juniors will take the SAT exam tomorrow, April 13th. Freshmen, sophomores, and seniors will work remotely.
Thank you, Mr. Klaus. Mrs. Ross.
Roosevelt Magnet School. You hear me? Roosevelt Magnet School will conduct auditions for fourth grade students the week of April 19th through the 24th at Students' Home School. Students who are enrolled in the Magnet program have 2 fine arts classes per day, including at least 4 of the following areas: band, choir, drama, visual arts, and graphic arts production. If your child has an interest in the arts and you would like to have your child audition to attend Roosevelt Magnet School next year, please complete the forms posted on the Roosevelt Magnet School webpage. Only students who are interested and whose parents have responded will be auditioned this year.
Thank you, Mrs. Ross. Dr. Rankin.
Kindergarten Roundup. The Peoria Public Schools Kindergarten Roundup will be held Saturday, April 24th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Peoria Zoo in Glen Oak Park. If you have a student ready to start kindergarten next school year, bring the family to this free event. You can meet principals, assistant principals, and teachers from your student's school and get information on registration and necessary health screenings. Individual school kindergarten roundups will begin following the Peoria Zoo Roundup.
Thank you, Dr. Rankin. Mrs. Costick.
Virtual learning applications for 2021 through 2022 due April 23rd. Peoria Public Schools is offering a virtual learning at-home program for your students to learn using an online platform called Acellus. This is available for students in grades 2 through 8 for the 21-22 school year. An application is posted on PPS website for families to apply to be considered for this learning experience. The window for applications closes April 23rd. If you have questions, please contact the district main office at area code 309-672-6512. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Costick. And I have 2 announcements. First, I would like to acknowledge the bulletin boards from Roosevelt and Sterling on my left. The race to save our stadium. Thank you to Save Our Stadium runners and walkers who braved windy, wet conditions on Saturday. And I was there, and I went through that mud. 62 runners and 55 walkers registered for the event. Despite the weather, the majority of runners participated as well as a large portion of the walkers. The event raised $4,000 through registration fees and direct donations. And then vaccine pop-up clinics. Peoria Public Schools is partnering with the Peoria Health Department, Peoria County Health Department, with 2 school buildings serving as pop-up vaccination sites on Wednesday, April 14th. Manual High School and Woodruff Career and Technical Center will serve as vaccination sites for the 1-dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Wednesday. These appointments must be made online in advance and are available only to individuals 18 years old or older. Details with the link to sign up for an appointment will be sent out. Thank you. And Dr. Carrad, did you have any announcements? Okay, thank you. Okay. Next, we have district presentations. First, a student showcase, Zana Rose.
Good evening, President Shaw and board members. As you remember, or most of you recall, the dual language classes have been in person since the beginning of the school year, and Fridays was remote and virtual learning for students. And Dr. Karat was very supportive of our program and always reminded us to take advantage of a crisis and don't let it go to waste. And with that in mind, we decided to take advantage and designate Fridays as our project-based learning. So tonight, I want to introduce a teacher from Harrison who's going to talk about some of the projects that her students worked on and the benefits. I also want to highlight the principal, Fabian Daniels, who's always been very supportive of the learning and always there to make sure students have what they need. So at this time, I want to show you on the wall the wonderful projects that the kids worked on, and I'll let Mrs. Hubler-Watson talk about it.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jennifer Hubler-Watson, and I want to thank Dr. Karat and the school board for your support of our bilingual program in our district. We have really enjoyed the opportunity to meet collaboratively as a bilingual team this year. It's given us an opportunity to work together and develop units of study that really challenge the students and differentiate instruction in the classroom. The units of study that we've been working on, they are inquiry-driven, and they have project-based outcomes. And it's been very engaging and meaningful for the students. And I appreciate the opportunity to have that experience. It's changed my instruction. So thank you. And thank you, Ms. Gross.
Thank you. When we talk about the projects, I just want to point out some of the different areas. The students were using their knowledge utilization and background information to do research. They looked at different animals around the world, and they researched habitats and different aspects of where the animals come from. And it really takes the learning into that rigorous level, the highest level of the cognitive complexity. So again, thank you to Mrs. Hubler-Watson. And these are projects at some schools, but that's what our focus was on Friday, to make sure students were taking on that learning at a higher level, and also involving parents during that Friday time where the parents also were involved. So it was a kind of like a family project supported by the principal. So thank you, Mrs. Daniels, too, for supporting our teachers. Thank you.
President Shaw, I was wondering if Mr. Burke can take a picture of our teacher and the team so that we could probably put a nice article in Remarkable Times and even on our website. Those are amazing. And I've visited the classrooms and seen them in action, and the kids really enjoyed doing it, and they put in a performance for the principal and I.
Next, we have a calendar recommendation for the start of the 2022-2023 school year. Dr. Wilson and Judge Collins.
Good evening, President Shaw and Vice President Wilson and the Board of Education and Dr. Karat. The team and I would like to share our end results of the work that we have done on the Balanced Calendar Project. So first, I'd like to introduce the core team committee before they come to the podium, as Michelle's getting this ready for us. First of all, Dr. Coleman was from Peoria High School, and Dr. Wood and also Tom Bloomer were unable to be with us this evening. Laura Rogers from Roosevelt, Was in part of the core team, Katie Cobb from Valeska, Josh Collins, my co-lead, the Director of Transportation, Thomas Brooks, the Communication Director, and myself. So we'll go ahead and get started. As you recall, we had a charge, and the superintendent's charge that we began with in December was for the Balanced Calendar Committee to revisit the feasibility of providing a balanced calendar schedule starting with the 2022-23 school year to address COVID-19 learning loss.
Good evening. The beginning of our timeline started in December 3rd and December 8th. Our core team had planning meetings. We met together. December 14th, our present committee presented information and the timeline to the Board of Education. In January, we had impact groups that met and had an informational Board of Education presentation with our PowerPoint on the website. January 25th, we had a progress update to the Board of Education. In February, we had impact groups that met. We had online parent and staff survey, the first one. We did research. We had district and school interviews. February 22nd, we had a progress update to the Board of Education. February and March, we had frequently asked questions, and we had a PTO council meeting. March, we had town hall meetings, community groups, and parent and staff surveys, the second one. March 22nd, we presented a progress update to the Board of Education. April 6th, we had a core team and impact committee review of all the data to reach a consensus for our recommendation. April 7th to the 9th, we gave our recommendation forwarded to Dr. Karat. And April, we'll have our Board of Education votes on a proposal. Good evening. The work. Core and Impact Committee were formed, subcommittees. The subcommittees were made up of buildings and grounds, athletics, student achievement, finance, staffing, and community. Peoria Public Schools website balanced calendar link to post updated information. There were 2 family surveys, 2 staff surveys, research, current balanced calendar implementer interviews, and town hall meetings, virtual and in person.
Good evening. So during the course of the work, we started out really looking at the balanced calendar versus traditional. This slide here is kind of a visual representation to tell you what we were talking about when we're talking about a balanced calendar and or a traditional calendar. The other item that was introduced or discussed during the meetings was a modified calendar. The modified calendar differs from a balanced calendar in that a modified calendar generally will start in August. A balanced calendar will generally start in July. The modified calendar will have slightly shorter intersessions versus a balanced calendar. Balanced calendar traditionally has 45 days of learning, then 3 weeks of intercession, 45 days of learning, 3 weeks of intercession, so on and so forth. A modified calendar is similar, but that it will have shorter intercessions, shorter than the 3 weeks with the balanced calendar. And then obviously the traditional calendar is what we're all used to.
Hello, Board. I'm just going to go over the survey real quick, just kind of a high-level overview of it. Back in February, we sent out a preliminary survey, and then we followed up in March. The Impact Committee designed and reviewed the questions for these 2 surveys, one to staff and one to families. And that was sent out, that was officially opened, that survey, or those surveys, on March 11th. And closed on April 5th. For this this survey, this one will be posted. The results of it will be posted on our website on the Balance Calendar tab after the meeting tonight. So just an FYI to everyone watching, they'll be able to view the results on that. So the staff survey received 893 responses, and the family survey received a little over 1,800 responses. We did allow within that the families to select if they had multiple kids at multiple buildings, just to try to get a representation of how many students were actually represented. And so just about 2,500 students were represented with the 1,800 responses from family members. And just real quick on the, like I said, you'll be able to see the full results posted on the website on the Balance Calendar tab. But the survey results that we wanted to kind of go over here on questions 4 and 5, the committee wanted to know what either staff or families thought the best option was for either the the best option for the PPS students, so the district as a whole for students, or what was the best option either individually for their particular family, or if there were a staff member for themselves or their family. And so this is just and 3 options were presented there. It was a traditional, the modified, and balanced. Those are those 3 options that Josh mentioned earlier in the presentation. And so you can see the breakdown of how that works, how the results panned out. The top 2 options under family and staff, that's when people were asked what they thought was the best option for the students of Peoria Public Schools as a whole. And then the bottom 2, that's what the response was for the best option for in their particular situation.
Thanks, everyone. So thank you so much to the Balance Committee for your due diligence, your research, the engagement of a variety of individuals, a variety of stakeholders. I just wanted to thank you for your work. I think you've managed, we talk a lot about, when we're talking about change, especially deep-seated change, you've just exemplified how it should be done in terms of that process and what that process entailed. And you've just heard from them, they've outlined. So you took us, Balance Committee, on a beautiful journey, and I just, again, wanted to say thank you. And so with this slide, as we sort of wrap up, as I talked about, the charge was the feasibility of, in our heads, we know we have this traditional calendar, and and just trying to figure out ways to provide additional instruction to our kids, especially if everything going on. And the idea was, can we do better? Is there more that we can do in terms of finding more time to provide additional supports for our children? And of course, everybody knows we're going to have this robust summer school program, which we're really excited about, and it's been a while since we've been able to do that. But summer school, we need additional time. So this journey that evolved as it relates to let's study this balanced calendar idea and the feasibility. So you can see what I like this slide because I wanted you to see what we're looking at. So you'll see that there's a traditional calendar, and in the middle you'll see information regarding the modified calendar, and then at the very end you'll see information regarding the balanced calendar. And so when you look at the instructional time under the traditional calendar, it is 45 days, and then in terms of breaks, you have two days for fall, and 10 days for winter, and so forth, and spring, and school starts mid-August and it ends in May, and in terms of breaks, there are different breaks throughout the school year. The thing about the traditional calendar is there are 60 days, number of days for summer, and approximately. And for many, many years, the research talks about, education, the health field, they have changed. Education continues to be the same, and there's a lot of talk about, our system was designed on this agrarian, schedule, where for the most part in the summer we would go out in the farm and work. And so we still, today, after decades and decades and decades, we're still following that calendar. So, so that's the idea. Just get on this journey and see if we can find time in a creative way to provide more instruction for our children. So along the journey, modified, we came to the modified road, and you can see in terms of instructional time, still 45 days. Again, 45-10, 45-10, 45-10, fall, winter, spring. And then summer, under modified, families will have their June, they'll have their July. School will start early August, shortly after Memorial Day. And there will be 2 weeks for fall, 2 weeks for winter, 2 weeks for spring. And as it relates to the summer break, it will be 45 days. So that's the modified calendar. And there's, as you can see under that time, that schedule, there's still 2 weeks of quote-unquote intercession where additional instruction can be provided. And then the balanced calendar, it is, again, 45 days, similar to Valeska Hinton, and I see our principal, Miss Cobbs, is with us, and she has been running that calendar for how many years, Ms. Cobbs? 8 years. And the teachers will tell you they will not give it up for anything, right? Is that true? And so you can see so it's 3 weeks, 45, 15, 45, 15, 45, 15. With that calendar, the start of the school year starts mid-July and it ends early August. And in terms of the interim break, it's 3 weeks for fall, 3 weeks for winter, and 3 weeks for spring. And in terms of the number of days for summer break, it's 30. So wanted to share that with you. And as, you know, again, thank you so much. And I wanted to thank our families, all of our staff who were involved with this process and providing really good, valuable, meaningful feedback as it relates to, you know, this exploration. We genuinely accepted everyone's ideas. And from the beginning, I told everyone, you know, this is an exploration. We have not made a decision. And I really appreciated them believing us in that sense. So tonight, the idea was really to just sort of share what's unveiled and just sort of the culmination. And then I spoke to President Shaw and said, hey, President Shaw, what I would like to do is just sort of leave that. We will, number one, put the information on our website. President Shaw also asked me to figure out a way to send some hard copies to our families because not everybody really, you know, have readily access to the internet, and I thought that was a good idea, and just to the webpage and so forth. And we thought that was a good idea. We have time. We have a lot of time, and at some point we will discuss next steps in terms of coming to the board. But at this point, it's just this is where we are, and wanted to definitely show the difference. I think this is very powerful. This is very, very powerful as we think about the why, right? I mean, what is the reason behind these amazing, brilliant individuals and all of our parents and individuals giving feedback, the why behind this exploration for a change. And so, President Shaw, I don't know if you want to add anything else to that, but again, in terms of next steps, just share the data, share the information, share the results, and wait for opportunities for additional feedback from our constituents. And then, because time is on our side, it's not like we're rushing to do this next year. We still have, you know, we're talking about 2022, 2023. So again, thank you very much, team. and everyone involved, and I'll turn it over to President Shaw.
The only other thing that I would like to add is, talking to some of the families, I did get a sense from the high school students that they would like to have some input into the process. So if we can find a way to get information from them, I think it will round out our information going into the decision-making process.
Yeah, that's great. I received some last week, and I shared some information, but there were just about 5 of them. So that's definitely, we can do that for sure.
Mrs. Ross?
Yeah, I have a question for Dr. Crott. Is there a way to determine the geographical areas that the majority of the surveys came back from?
Yes, ma'am, we could definitely do that. Mr. Brook can share that with you as well. Thank you.
Yep. And great question, Mrs. Ross. So we on the survey, it says for both the staff, they're able to put what building, but also for the family survey, we had included every single school on there, and so we're able to see where the families responded from that survey. And we did make a very concerted effort as part of the reason why the window was open for almost 3.5 weeks to bring the survey to our families across the city, just so that we could get as comprehensive a feedback as possible. And so we did work on that over the course. There was a lot of people either making calls to families. We got the information out via home visits. We worked through some churches that said they would announce it in their Sunday announcements, and then even having it open at the wraparound center. So we tried to get we over the course of those 3 weeks in the middle of COVID, we did try to get out to as many people as possible across the city.
Thank you.
Other input from board members? Dr. Rankin, and then Mrs. Costick.
Thomas, going off of that question, hearing what President Shaw had requested about printing off this for individuals who don't have the internet, was there an opportunity for individuals who didn't have internet access to take the survey this time around?
And so, yes, so when I said we made calls,
You
had
called and
call
asked
sheets
questions.
for our,
Gotcha.
yep, and that's a method that we found. Our principals have to do the 5 essential survey every year, and that's a very valuable survey for us that we really champion. And so that's a similar method that we've used there, and so that allows, again, it's meeting our families where they are, wherever they are. Yep.
I guess my concern is because it was provided to the board what's going to be posted on the website, I'm assuming, and as like Richwoods has the highest, as I'm assuming that sometimes that's often the case, and so I would just want to see if there's a way that we can have more equity. And I know that a lot was already reached out and done, but I just am wondering how we can have more equity across the district, going off of Mrs. Ross's question. The other question I had was going back to one of the first slides that was read that had all of the list of, one more. That's the one. And so I'm wondering, I'm assuming that this will be updated since Dr. Crott has said we're going to postpone the Board of Education vote. And so I just didn't know if the committee had a plan on when that would be updated, like when.
I missed it. I saw it and I'm like, oops, we missed.
Okay.
We'll probably tonight or tomorrow for sure.
Update that?
Yeah,
Okay.
before it gets on the website, we will.
So do you know what the update may be? Like just take it off indefinitely until more information is gathered?
I'll work with our president and we'll get some additional feedback.
Okay.
The good thing is we have time.
Right.
So that's good. And we'll go back and also work with the committee. It was a beautiful journey, and honestly, I am very pleased with the work and also the overall feedback from everybody providing feedback. Really.
Mrs. Costick.
Dr. Crott, I did have a question. Since we're not, under a great time constraint or anything, and we're not looking at starting it possibly until the 22-23 school year, I was wondering possibly is there any way that we might consider doing a pilot for the upcoming school year for one of the schools, just to kind of see how it does go, and then, get the additional feedback?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I see I see Josh's arms are swinging. Normally, that's what we do with the adoption of curriculum, for example, and textbooks. I think there's an additional challenge, but obviously, with the amazing team that we are, nothing is impossible, but transportation and busing and those sorts of things. But Josh, what do you think of that idea? Number one, we'd have to get a school or two to volunteer.
Correct.
Um,
It's more that, as you said, there's a logistics side to it. Anytime that we have, I know having Valeska Hinton and Knoxville on a different calendar than the district can be challenging. It's not impossible, but it is very challenging to get everything up and running because you're trying to mesh two different schedules. When we run pilots like that, as Dr. Karat said, nothing is impossible, but it does present some challenges from a logistics point of view. Not just transportation, but also buildings and grounds. Any of the student services side are impacted on those logistics. So nothing is impossible, but it does get very challenging. And sometimes those challenges can interfere with any progress or data that might be collected. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Josh, before you leave, what was it, a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, we embarked upon this balanced calendar and asked some schools to be pilots. And, so they've already studied the schools that wanted to be pilots. I know at least 3, and I remember, had agreed. What happened to that?
Yeah, so actually, so Knoxville was at Knoxville, and of course, you have to work very closely with your teacher and the teacher union as well, because it's that's a piece. But just throughout this journey, with all of the other challenges that we're experiencing, especially with the bus driver shortage, there was this this wish down the road that as a district we would eventually all sort of get on one calendar, which from a logistics standpoint would make things a lot easier in terms of having the drivers, having the buses on time, and those sorts of things. But that's down the road. I guess back to both of Ms. Ross and Mrs. Costick, I think the committee we can go back and just have a conversation regarding the feasibility of that.
Mr. Waller?
Yeah, I have two questions. First one is, do you have a more specific time frame that you're looking at doing this? Because I think people thought we were going to be voting here tonight, and I understand we have time. Do you have any time frame reference you're looking at?
We don't. We'll have to go back to the committee and send the information out and come up with a plan. Right now, it was just to sort of educate everyone and ourselves around the 3 calendars: traditional, the pros and cons, modified pros and cons, and balanced pros and cons, knowing what it is that overall as a district we're wanting to do. And I think I wouldn't just jump up and give a date at all. I would go back and, out of respect to all of the work that they've done, just because I think a priority, Mr. Walther, is getting that information into the hands of our families now and just kind of get some feedback and see how it goes.
The second issue, I was glad to hear that because I was concerned that we were going to vote on this before we had the presentation by the audience. And we've got a lot of people here, I think, that have some comments. And so I would like to have heard that before we went and moved on any kind of decision. So I appreciate that we're not going to be having to do that vote tonight, because I do think we have to listen to the parents and the people who are here.
Yeah, if you notice, it's not an action item on our agenda.
noticed.
I just have a comment. A lot of things that we discuss here around the Horseshoe has to do with transportation. As long as I've been on this board, transportation has always, always, always been an issue. So, and it never seems, it never seems that we've ever been able to have enough drivers to do what we need to do. I guess with that being said, I don't understand how by 2023, this is going to be resolved as far as transportation is concerned. So so I go back to what I stated as far as just having a pilot program, and the first thing that comes up is that, well, yeah, it could be done, but it's transportation. It's always going to be transportation. I mean, like I said, as long as I've been here, that's an issue. So what makes the difference, I guess,
Yeah.
is what I want to know.
Great observation. In our studies in graduate school, they'll say three things get in the way: beans, budget, and buses. 3 Bs. So yeah, we'll work hard and see what happens. Thank you.
Other input from board members? Seeing none, thank you. We are now at the point of presentations by the audience. Presentations by the audience are limited to 5 minutes, and we ask that you keep them constructive. Our first speaker will have the square root of 25 minutes, and that would be Mrs. Kim Thomas.
Best times best introduction. Hi, I'm Kim Thomas. I'm an Illinois Teacher of the Year. I've been a teacher in this district for 14 times 2 years, and my kids graduated from this district. I have to start out with a shout out to a Peoria High graduate and a nail tech graduate from Woodruff, Jessica Kellum at Lynn Nail Salon. She gave me the best mathic cure ever. I will be her forever client. I get little math symbols on my toes, and she knew right away when I was like, I need a positive parabola and a square root. I know those. I had Mr. McCaw. Shout out to Mr. McCaw. So just wanted to give a shout out to her. Okay, well, it's very sad, the interventionists and job coaches, it's just how it was done. Every one of them and all teachers would agree we want teachers in the classroom. I get that, a certified teacher, but there's other ways that we can go about this. And if it's all about kids, you could get rid of, some of your admin. We got a lot of admin getting a lot of money, and we have less kids. So if it's really about kids, they can maybe in the morning hop on a bus and drive a bus or teach half a day. I mean, there's ways to do it. There really are ways to do it. I also was wondering, is the calendar options going to be all the calendar options to the board, or you're just going to have the balanced one? Because I noticed it got last place. Thank you for showing the surveys. I was looking for them, and I just wanted to see what happened with that. It's always one-sided. We never hear the cons. We always hear the pros with Dr. Wilson and Josh, and I get that. I was glad to see other people up here, but what about the teachers that were on the committee or some of the parents? We hear about Valeska, it's a pre-K, Knoxville's credit recovery, and then you got the rest of the district. These are 3 unlike terms. You got x squared, and x cubed. You putting them together, you just can't. How about a choice? I totally agree with the pilot. I have it down here. Elk Grove School District in Illinois gives a choice. They have 1 divided by 1 schools. 1 school out of their 5 times 2 that offers a balanced calendar for their K through 3+2 grade. So for their K to 5 grade, they offer a balance. The other 9 schools, traditional calendar. I listened to the virtual town hall, and a question was, well, will teachers work over these breaks? Well, 100 times 2 teachers said they would, but 500 plus 200, 700 said no thanks. Will kids get transportation to go to interventions and enrichment? Answer, possibly. Well, then that means possibly not. A balanced calendar will not support kids if we don't have a balanced grading policy and a balanced attendance policy. Kids can miss months of school and be promoted to the next grade. Kids can fail a subject and not be considered failing according to our grading policy. So what subject doesn't matter? Why do we teach it? That would help the teacher shortage. Giving a kid 10 times 4% for doing absolutely nothing? Where does this happen in real life? We can do better. This grading policy we have right now tells kids, we know you're not going to do any work, so we'll give you that 10 times 4 so you're closer to a D so you don't have to do much. Our grading policy should be telling our kids, we know you can learn. We expect you to learn. And if you don't, there's going to be consequences plus supports. We have to have that. Stop the social promotion. Social promotion is the negative. Having a true alternative school is the positive. It's not a negative thing to have to go to an alternative school. And I'm going to be an advocate. I haven't been shy about being an advocate for kids who need those extra supports. I had a teacher reach out to me that said, my kid's not doing, a kid said, I don't have to do math this year. I didn't do it last year and I got moved up to the next grade. I had a parent in tears tell me her son failed every subject in the 5+2 grade. She asked the principal to retain him. She wouldn't. So he got promoted to the 4x2 grade. And she goes, how can I get him to do his work when he knows he didn't have to do any work in the 5+2 grade? He's not going to do it now. And now he's getting in trouble with the law, and she's in tears going, he has to get in trouble with the law until he gets help. That's just really sad. That Paper Tigers movie that you had teachers watch, that's a true alternative. If an alternative school is not a negative if it's meeting the needs of those kids. And when I was at Woodruff, that was the best times, best place for alternative kids because they got to see good things. They got to see the CTC and where they could go and things that they could do. So, and those teachers loved and embraced our kids. Please reimagine education with an alternative, and please don't have expelled kids next year be on a CELUS. They need to be in person. Thank you.
The next speaker is Ms. Amanda Brown.
Good evening. Though being an educator always informs every part of who I am, I want to make it very clear tonight that I'm standing here as a parent of 3 incredible Peoria Public Schools children. I see Dr. Ike here, and I want to make sure I make that clear. My position as an administrator or an employee in the district is not why I'm here tonight to speak. I am speaking tonight in favor of a balanced calendar. My 2 boys went to Valeska. They have IEPs, and the balanced calendar provided them with the support that they needed and the shorter breaks. We have had the privilege of working with their SLP over summers since they have been in elementary school, but that is a privilege, and that is not something that all of our families can afford to pay for and do on their own. The shorter breaks provide opportunity for enrichment, intervention, and rest, as we've talked about, and they're critical for the success of the whole child. More important, and the reason that actually brought me here to speak tonight, is what Dr. Reiking kind of already brought up, and that is that all of our families have a voice. As I watch the news, the social media, the groups that I'm part of as a parent, I see voices. The main voices that are being advocated are not necessarily representative of our entire district, and I wanted to be here tonight to speak on part of that. I'm not going to pretend that I can speak for parents in all of our communities, but my kids do go to Roosevelt. And I know that their classmates, many of their classmates, do not enjoy breaks. School, as we've seen in the most intense moments of this pandemic, is a central hub. And some people see that as a problem. They say that people shouldn't rely as much on schools. But if we look at it as a community-based approach, we have a privileged position to provide what our community needs and what Peoria needs. We have wonderful summer programs in Peoria through the Park District, through private areas. Many of our kids never have the opportunity to participate in those. My kids and I swim at John Gwen Pool during the summer, which for those of you who don't know is now only open from 12 to 5, 2 days a week during the summer. And that is the only pool that most of the kids on the south side have access to. I live in the Central Bluff, 2 blocks from the East Bluff, and 2 blocks from my house over spring break, a man was murdered with over 50 shots. It may not seem relevant, but we as a community have work to do to make Peoria a safe and equitable place for all of our kids. And I think the balanced calendar plays a role with that. Research goes back and forth, seems undetermined, but what research you can find does say that if anyone benefits from a balanced calendar, it is students from a low socioeconomic background. Due to systemic societal factors, most of those kids, especially in Peoria, are Black or Indigenous people of color. There's many ways to measure success. Don't agree with all of them, but one way we look at is academic achievement. And our data as a district mirrors the national data. What we are doing is not working, fully working, in providing an equitable education for our students. The challenges of childcare, the staff who work out of district, not being on the same schedule, competitive sports, and custody are legitimate. But Franklin Douglas said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. It is past time to give up the agricultural community farm calendar Dr. Karat referred to a little bit ago and ensure a just, equitable education for all. At the end of the day, my kids are stuck with 2 educators as parents. They're going to be fine. But I think that we as a district need to seize this opportunity to do what Dr. Karat says, which is reimagine education and come together to address the logistics, which we have many brilliant minds in this community and this district that can do, many of whom are sitting in this room. And I urge the board to consider approving this proposal for the balanced calendar. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ms. Lynn Fingerhut.
Thank you, and I'm here as a parent who opposes the balanced calendar. And I want to, first of all, just thank the board for delaying the vote, for listening to all the different points of view, for being attentive. The committee's done a lot of work, and it's a lot of information, and I really appreciate the board for taking time to listen to our concerns, to address them, and then to give us more time also to work through this as a district and as a community. I know that it's really important that more families weigh in on this. The last person just mentioned that. We've had, as Dr. Pratt always says, unprecedented times, and there's a lot of people who are just surviving right now who don't know that this is even being discussed. They don't have the time right now to think about things like that are going to happen in a year and a half, and things are going to be a major community change. So I think it's really important that our whole community hears about this, weighs in on it, and really understands what a big change this would be. And we should hear from as many families as possible, as many teachers as possible. And really, that also includes input from our surrounding districts. We are, in fact, surrounded by rural districts. We are a very large and urban school district, and we're surrounded by farm communities. They're going to stay on probably a traditional calendar. It would be really helpful, I think, to engage with them, find out, would they ever consider changes like this, like a modified or balanced calendar, because we do have people who have children in one district and teach in a different one. And that includes also the private schools too. We should hear from them. If there are clear and compelling reasons for a balanced calendar and for a massive schedule change like this, then we should be able to address that within our district and find out how that we can work with the people who are going to be on, where a family would have multiple schedules like that. I hear teachers over and over saying that there are pressing and immediate ways to address the learning loss from the pandemic that don't have to wait a year and a half or 2 years. And I hear teachers talking about it, teachers and staff talking about the interventionists and the instructional coaches. I hear people talking about robust summer schools. I'm not an educator. I think our teachers are doing an amazing job, and I think that they have the knowledge and the information, and I think that we can address these things rather than bringing a major calendar change at this time. I think that this kind of calendar could be, the balanced calendar specifically, could be great for an ideal society where People can work one job that pays a living wage, or they have access to parental leave, they have flexibility in their schedule, and they're able to take time to be with their children when their children are not in school. And that is not the society that we have right now, unfortunately. That's not the society we have in Illinois. It's not the society we have in this country. So this is a calendar for a different society that I wish we did have. So I really thank you for all the information that you have provided, and then also for postponing this vote and hopefully including many more voices in this, as it is a major schedule change for our entire community. Thank you.
The next speaker is Mrs. Sharon Trussler.
Hi, I'm here tonight to speak in favor of the balanced schedule. I am a product of this district, Richwoods High graduate. I also taught 20 years before retiring from District 150. My children are products, graduates of District 150. I thank you for taking this journey. I hope to golly gosh that you're not going to wait for a year and a half to plug these holes and these gaps in the kids' education. But I truly hope that you will support a balanced schedule. We are preparing these children for the rest of their lives. They don't get June, July, and August in any jobs. And that's one of the things that needs to change. I truly hope that you will support this. I think it's a great thing. Now is the time to change things for Peoria. We've been going downhill in population for a long while. And I think if we could get a balanced schedule and show them how much success the students can have in that schedule, that we could bring people back. Oh, what a great thing that would do. Remember, if it plays in Peoria. Thank you.
Next speaker is Sandy Jondarius.
Tonight, I'm speaking about the proposed bell schedule for the 21-22 school year. I was surprised to learn that when school starts in August, students will still not be attending school for a full 7-hour day, and that primary schools would again not begin until 9:30 in the morning. 2 years ago, it was proposed that primary schools start today at 9:30, even though data shows that primary age students benefit more by beginning their day earlier, not later. At that time, the board and the administration chose to follow the data and cut primary school hours at 8:30. And I cannot help but wonder if this is the administration's way of pushing primary times to start later in the day. Secondly, I had assumed that beginning in August of 2021, the district would return to a 7-hour school day. Every other surrounding district and private and parochial schools attend full days. Dunlap School District has been attending 5 days a week, 7 hours a day since August 17th. A 6-hour day means students in District 150 will go 1 hour less a day than students in other districts. This means 5 hours less instruction time each week, which is close to every student being absent 1 day every week during the school year. Carried out for a year, every District 150 student would attend school more than 1 month less than students in surrounding districts. If the goal is to help students catch up academically, how can this goal be achieved when students in this district already starting the year academically behind are only able to receive instruction at school and it's going to be 1 month less than other districts? And on top of that, we are discontinuing the support of interventionists and reading coaches. I've heard the 6-hour day is due to transportation issues, but I do not understand how or why the transportation department can dictate the hours of attendance. I propose the district needs to put any talk of changes to the school calendar on hold and put all energy and resources into returning to a 7-hour day. Students will be unable to catch up attending only 6 hours a day. Furthermore, those families who have made the choice to move to a private or parochial school so that their children could receive instruction 5 days a week on a full day will not return to this district for a shortened day. I hope that you will reconsider start times for our schools and returning to a full day schedule. Your students and families not only need it, but they deserve it.
Next, we have Jackie Hoyle and Anna Gross.
Good evening. My name is Anna Gross, and I'm a freshman at Richwoods High School.
And I'm Jackie Hoyle, a sophomore at Richwoods High School. Thank you for your time.
We've been gathering signatures from students who are against the balanced calendar.
At the moment, we have 143 signatures, having spoken to over 150 students who were eager to have their opinions heard.
We were shocked at how many people we encountered didn't know you were even considering this schedule change.
One of our main concerns about this new calendar is that it would prevent high school students from maintaining a summer job. Income made from summer work helps teenagers pay for college education.
The random breaks every 45 school days also brings up another problem: daycare. Over the traditional summer, it is easier for parents to find camps and childcare for their kids. Putting children in a daycare facility only to pull them out after 2 weeks isn't a very good system. This situation would also arise in a modified calendar.
Before jumping on the possibility of a new schedule, more prominent and thorough research needs to be done. As documented on the District 150's website, the Education Advisory Board surmises that the balanced calendar does little to address learning gaps, noting, quote, "Studies that assess the effectiveness of year-round school yields inconclusive evidence that year-round school improves academic performance," end quote.
By shortening the traditional summer break, a balanced calendar would restrict students from pursuing summer jobs, force parents to find other options for daycare, and keep kids and teens from participating in summer activities such as off-season training for athletes, camps, and vacations.
The COVID pandemic has already caused enough disruption in the lives of students, parents, and faculty. I don't believe this is the time for the district to cause any more disruption.
Thank you again for your time. We hope you will take our thoughts and opinions into consideration. Thank you.
Legally.
Our next speaker is Elizabeth DeVerne. I'm sorry, DeVerne. Or DeVerne. I'm sorry, I'm just having trouble reading it.
No, that's okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for your time.
DeVerne.
Hello, I am coming to you as a parent of 4 children in District 150. I've attended all of the town hall meetings surrounding the proposed balanced calendar schedule. This has left many questions and concerns being unanswered and unaddressed. I am asking for all of the parents of District 150 to have a specific time where this vote is going to be gone over again, and that to be communicated to every parent and family in District 150 ahead of time. The concerns that I had brought up in the town meeting was the rooms being properly air conditioned. At the town hall meeting, I asked the question, are the air conditioning units truly sufficient in keeping up with the extreme heat of July and August with a fully occupied building? Rolling Acres was without power on April 7th of last week. 7th and 8th graders, students sat in the dark without Wi-Fi, electricity, and AC. I asked specifically in the town meeting what would happen on a day that the AC would not work. I was told parents would be contacted.
After the event at Rolling Acres, I called the administration and I was told there was no written policy when the AC did not work. I was also told I would be contacted back. I'm still waiting for an answer. Custody agreements. There's many children and families in District 150 that spend their time among two households. These custody agreements have been set by courts. It will cost a lot of our families money and time to go back and revise these agreements. In the town hall meeting, I brought up if there had been any partnership with lawyers or courts in our area, and I was told that there had not been any collaboration. I am asking for collaborative efforts and a list of available resources to be provided to our families before this decision is made or brought back to the table. A variety of sports and activities, one example, grief camps, could be impacted. This was brought up in a town hall meeting, and the answer was the policy would have to be looked at to allow those students to be able to attend these things. An idea was that there should be a policy written for those for those students to be excused. I'm asking for that to be approved before this decision is made. Child care concerns that's previously brought up, I'm asking for a comprehensive list of the child care facilities in our community that would be willing to take the District 150 children, as well as a majority of them, not just one, because in the town hall meeting, it was brought up that just one or two had been contacted. That is not enough. The opportunities to earn additional income has already been brought up, but our area businesses are not going to hire, as what was said, on those 3-week interims. Please provide a list of community partners that have committed to hiring some of our students so that they can work to earn the money that many of our families need to attend college. An impact to our communities. This will affect our community in so many different ways. The Peoria Park District, the YWCA, our area pools, our summer camps, creative arts, small businesses. District 150 makes up a large portion of our community. With a balanced schedule, these businesses would most likely be impacted. I am asking for you guys to contact and have these stakeholders a part of these conversations. I know I pick my children up at this point in time. I take home a car full of kids to empty houses. The bell schedule is not working. I am asking you to please revise that before you even consider this proposal. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Ms. Mary Beth Cunningham.
Mary Beth Cunningham, 6219 North Eldorado Drive, and to the high school ladies who came and spoke, watch out, do a lifetime of it, okay? But you'll have gray hair like I do if you do. Keep coming back, that's what counts. I literally flashed back to the first time I spoke at a board meeting. I was around their age. I went to several before that. And it was about something that would have impacted my day and my schedule, so I'm really glad that you guys did this. And it sounds like you guys are hearing us, that you on the board are hearing us, and that's why the vote is delayed. Along with Liz's list of things to consider, one of my biggest concerns related to childcare, not for myself because I'm privileged enough to be able to take care of that, but obviously our district having a lot of people who cannot afford the childcare and a lot of single income homes and dual income homes that one parent can't not work. Not just for our average kid, but we need to have commitment from community partners that are going to be consistent in providing childcare for our variety of different types of disabilities that a lot of our children have in this district. We house a lot of special education here, severe and profound all the way up to inclusion and physical, developmental, cognitive, simple learning disability that's not so simple, ADHD. These are very difficult placements for a lot of parents. It's hard for me to find a sitter, and I think my kids are relatively easy. I've got one that takes a little extra care, and I have family members and very close friends who childcare is exceptionally more difficult to secure because they have kids with a variety of needs. So please reach out to all of our community partners for that. You got my novel in an email, and I thank you for reading it. One of the questions that I just need an answer to as well, and I don't know if you have it, is kindergarten and first grade is not being discussed as far as a virtual or a distance option. I've got health critical kids myself, and hopefully we'll be released by then, but I have a daughter that'll be in first grade, and if she doesn't have an option, then what do we do, right? And I'm not the only one. I've got a friend whose daughter will be entering kindergarten with cystic fibrosis. It concerns me. She'll probably be one of the last people to be released, so we've got to consider our littles as well, because kids have to be in school by age 6 now. And then finally, my favorite thing to talk about in the whole wide world, interventionists. Thanks for putting it back on. I know that that doesn't mean anything's going to happen that I would love, but that just means that you guys are open to it, so I really do appreciate our pleas for help. They are experienced, seasoned teachers, many of whom have masters, many of whom have been through way more training than I even would imagine wanting to go to myself, and this year, more than ever, we need them. I don't know about next year, or the year after, or the year after, but this might not be the year to do it, especially considering the learning loss. That's all I got. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Jeff Atkins Dutro.
Good evening, Jeff Atkins Dutro, president of the Peoria Federation of Teachers. I see that not cutting the interventionist and coaching positions is on your agenda. I understand the administration has misled you and has said we never struck an agreement that the coaches and interventionists would have their jobs back if they taught us LS during the pandemic. I understand the administration is trying to say that because no TA or MOU exists, that no agreement ever existed. To say that is to be disingenuous. As when we were bargaining, Dr. Ike called it problem-solving bargaining because we had to make agreements on the fly. Life and death decisions had to be made amid an ever-changing landscape. There were many agreements made for which we did not have time to pass proposals, TAs, MOUs back and forth. We have held true to every agreement that we have made. Going forward, there will not be a single agreement where we don't demand a tentative agreement. Our relationship with the administration will be transactional because we simply cannot trust them. This is unfortunate because it is the least fertile ground for collaboration. You cannot collaborate well with those you do not trust. I want you to understand that cutting the interventionists and coaches means cutting all of the work they did. Everything you heard about at the last meeting. That work cannot be passed on to teachers or administrators. That's how the labor rules work. You have to decide if the supports for the students and teachers are necessary or not, if you want them or not. They will not show up in some different format. And I'd ask that you please take a look at the information that I passed to you. That's how much that the interventionists do. That said, in my opinion, you cannot let the failure of our district's administration to hire enough teachers stand in the way of what our students and teachers need, any more than you can let their failure to hire enough bus drivers determine the length of the school day. That's what's going on currently. You have people making $250,000 who are striking out when it comes to the fundamentals: water, food, buses, academics, and academic supports. You're also being misled when you're told there's only one option: to remove interventionists and coaches. The other option, the one being glossed over here, the epic failure, is to recruit and retain enough teachers so we don't have to remove critical supports. Dr. Karat has said publicly that by cutting interventionists and coaching jobs, she chose children. The implication, of course, is that the teachers' union is not choosing children. But I'll have you know that every member of our leadership team has been in this district and directly involved with children through thick and thin. We never quit, we never left, we never waited for the most opportune time to come back. We have been here and we have been in our positions because when you really choose the children, that's where you stay. We will not be patronized when it comes to caring about or choosing what's right for our children. What you need to do is keep our current interventionist and coaching positions while giving the administration an ultimatum to close the teaching gap, to find enough bus drivers, to provide our students with water, and to provide our students with quality food. You have an associate superintendent who, according to his contract, is supposed to be spending a quarter to a third of his time recruiting. You had 2 recruiters making $40,000 and a new one making $80,000. Combined with the HR director's salary, you're spending $250,000 on recruiting, and the best idea the administration can come up with is to cut our students and teacher supports. Are you going to support the cop-out? Or are you going to demand people do their jobs and truly close the gap? Tonight we will find out. It's a twofold referendum. Are you going to require the district to recruit and retain? And are you going to compel them to live up to their promises? We shall see. With regards to the balanced calendar, it seems odd that so much time is being spent on this when the district can't get students to school for a full day and can't fully staff classrooms. It's my hope that you listen to your constituents and act on their behalf instead of carrying out the wishes of the administration despite them. Thank you.
Next speaker is Ms. Joanna Christensen.
Good evening. My name is Joanna Christensen. I am the sole parent of a third grader who attends Whittier Primary School. I am here to discuss the lack of adequate child care options if this district switches to a balanced or modified calendar. I have to address two items before I start. First, with the exception of the child care piece, I do not oppose the balanced calendar. I will leave that to other people to discuss. Second, I know it's not this district's job to take care of my child when school is not in session and I am working. I understand that. It is the district's job not to make major changes to a system without adequately considering the real impact that decision has on working families. I am a working parent. I actually work 2 jobs, full-time and part-time. I'm a sole parent, as I mentioned. I am my child's only living parent. My comments come from a place of personal experience, but I'm also speaking on behalf of many other parents who have asked me to be here and be the representative in front of this board tonight. This board's actions during pandemic learning decisions and this balanced calendar process have consistently ignored the realities of being a working parent. Working parents cannot change their schedules at a week's notice. Working parents may not have a family member nearby who can take care of their children. We cannot change our lives every time the district decides to change the schedule, whether that a daily schedule or a yearly schedule. My concerns last summer fell on deaf ears. No real attempts were made to listen or adapt to families who could not roll with the punches of every schedule change. You simply made the assumptions that families would figure it out. And many of us did. But so many of us did not, and education and our children suffered. These effects will be felt for many years. The same thing is happening now. I know you have a committee that is addressing childcare. I have read everything that is available on the website. Based on what I've seen, your idea of childcare is inadequate. You have no buy-in and no commitments from quality camps and childcares that will provide more than warehousing children with undereducated teenagers and adults watching them. The quality childcare and camps in our community have not been asked, as far as I have seen, to adapt to this balanced calendar. Because most of the quality places also take students from outside this district, there is no incentive to change their schedules or add additional oddly timed staff just to facilitate care for District 150's children. Therefore, for the majority of families with working parents, there is nowhere for their children to go every 45 days for 15 or 10 days. There are no guarantees of programming or camps. And when your idea of working together with community stakeholders, which you also said during pandemic planning, does not pan out, working parents are left scrambling with bad choices at every turn. I am concerned what will happen to families in this district. Families who can afford to leave the district will, or they will go to private education. Families who can't will be stuck between the Scylla and Charybdis of choosing employment or childcare, or deciding whether to stay as teachers in this district if their children go to another district, or vice versa. or choosing to work weekends instead of weekdays so someone can be home with their children. They are choosing to alter their lives at the expense of their livelihood because you are giving them no choice. Every working parent sees a 15-day black hole every 45 days in this proposed calendar. Working parents know this black hole of no childcare all too well, and it sits in the pits of their stomach every single day. As a working parent, you think of those days coming where you do not have a safe place to take your child, so you don't lose your job. So you scramble to patch together safe places for your children to be. You bargain away time with other parents to share in childcare. You rely on neighbors and friends whom you have probably relied on too much already. And the worst feeling of a working parent, finally finding a place, but knowing in your heart it's not safe. Telling yourself it's only for a couple days. Telling yourself everything will be fine with uneducated staff and a lack of resources. Telling yourself, and I will conclude, it is okay if the place doesn't smell good and is too loud and too crowded. You walk away and pray. I understand, I will conclude. And cry for a moment in your car.
Next speaker is Mr. Terry Knapp.
Give you a handout tonight, and it says at the top, shameful and disgusting. You have turned into the most shameful and disgusting Board of Education that I've seen in this district in 75 years. And it starts with renaming Thomas Jefferson School for a minister. A minister. How does a minister even get considered when you talk about church and state? And why isn't it a Catholic bishop? Why isn't it a Muslim person of faith? Why isn't it, any of others, Buddhists, whatever? I don't understand how we got here. Thomas Jefferson is on the second page. Please look at this. I know some of you it sickens to look to it and be educated in history, but read the 10 things that Thomas Jefferson did here, and you should be ashamed of yourself for even considering removing his name. The article from the Journal-Star in 1950, when he was named by the state superintendent of schools, and the things that they talked about at that particular event, that was 1950. That was just 70 years ago. The man basically had been dead 150 years, and you act like nobody vetted him. Nobody vetted this guy? No, come on. I want to see what your vetting proves out, and I want to be able to vet Mr. Vivian. I don't object to Mr. Vivian, other than the fact that the people in the community object to him because it's based upon faith. And I don't get that. I don't even understand how you consider it. If you look at Thomas Jefferson again, father of the Declaration of Independence, repeated stances against slavery. Against slavery, that's your big deal. Cancel culture. Let's get Washington next, and let's get Harrison next. My kids went to Thomas Jefferson. My kids went to Washington. I taught at Harrison. My grandmother and my aunt and my mother and I and my sister lived on the south side at Arago and Hayes. That means something to us. And we let these schools like Harrison, you sell it for $50 or $10, excuse me. That was a high price, Miss Ross, at your district. $10, and the tires that are in there, the windows the guy took out, and then it's been sold 6 times. It's a fire hazard. It's everything and above. McKinley is the same way. Nobody, including Rita Ali, said anything until the last day of the election on the radio. I listened to her every day. She said, my mother lives at Howard. I grew up on the south side. Finally, she decided she needed enough votes to win, so she came out for tearing the 2 schools down. But shame on you for letting Keller East be torn down. How did that happen? You would know. You could speak to that. You're the new board member from Keller. Keller got their school torn down, not Harrison, not McKinley. They're on the south side. They're the crap part of the city. Let's leave. We'll take down Keller East right away. because, boy, that's not good for our kids out there. And, that's the way it works in this city. The further north you go, the better it is for your family. And your house values stay the same. This is ridiculous. Then you talk about Woodruff High School again, and Woodruff High School was closed, and they gave Central $34 million. $34 million to revamp a broken down, crippled school, and then they put in a new football field that's not even regulation for football. It's 5 yards short. They can't even play a football game there. They got inadequate parking. They got inadequate everything in their athletic complex. We were going to close the stadium down. We were going to play our football games at Central and Manual. Ridiculous. Never happened, never will happen. The facility is not even built. After spending $34 million of taxpayers' money, it's not even built to house football games. It's craziness. I mean, whoever did that should be fired on the spot. Fired on the spot. And instead we put a plaque up in the wrestling room after 4 years of his being in the district. We put a plaque up in his name. It's incredible what you people do. And this thing of changing the schools' names is pathetic. And I'll go back to the original statement. It's shameful and it's disgusting. And that's the only 2 words to describe this. Your leadership.
Next speaker is Mrs. Michelle Henderson.
President Shaw, Vice President Wilson, and the Board of Education. My name is Michelle Henderson, and I'm a proud teacher, parent, and graduate of Peoria Public Schools. My parents also dedicated their careers to Peoria Public Schools as teachers. This is my 18th year in the district. I come to you tonight in hopes that you will continue to listen to my concerns regarding the upcoming vote on a balanced calendar. I attended all of the town hall meetings. My husband also served on a balanced calendar subcommittee. I came with many questions, as Dr. Wilson can attest to. I also listened to many other questions and concerns from the community. One concern that I have was that districts that have been interviewed operate on what is a modified balanced calendar. Brownburg surrounding districts operate on that same calendar. Many districts have tried a modified calendar and reverted to a traditional calendar within a couple of years. We have not interviewed, nor could we find a district that uses a full balanced calendar schedule, except for talking to teachers at Valeska Hinton. I applaud the work that Valeska does, but a pre-K program is very different than primary, middle, and high school. I also found it disturbing that there is no research out there that this supports academic achievement. Why would we make such a drastic change if this does not affect student achievement? Some would argue that there are benefits for SEL. I will cover those concerns later. After returning from spring break, I am again reminded of the learning loss that occurs even after such a short break. I spent the majority of last week reviewing fraction concepts that we learned prior to break. It is a huge concern that we would extend these breaks to 15 days off, which I want to reiterate is 15 school days. That's 3 calendar weeks. The original intention was to eliminate summer slide, but instead of one extended break, we will have more extended breaks that lead to more opportunities for learning loss. I know there has been talk of learning during intersessions. One concern that I brought to Dr. Wilson was that from the initial survey, 221 teachers said that they would be willing to work during intersessions. We have over 12,000 students in our district. We cannot offer services to families if we cannot follow through with the staffing requirements to fill those needs. I anticipate that families will be using intersessions to fill those childcare needs as well. If the drive for these intersessions is credit recovery for high school students, let's think of a program that would affect those individuals, not an entire district. As I mentioned staffing, data on the Illinois report card from 2019-2020 states that teacher retention in our district is 79% in comparison to surrounding districts that range from 88 to 90%. I anticipate that many highly qualified teachers will leave in mass exodus, either retiring early or finding opportunities elsewhere. We can't afford for this to happen when we already have a teacher shortage. Many families could potentially leave too. Teachers also further their education during traditional summer breaks. Yes, online classes are offered, but there are teachers who attend programs that meet in person. Many of these have cohorts that meet during the day in the summer, and part of the value of these programs is the collaboration with teachers from other districts. Substitutes are a concern. How will we continue to recruit substitutes when we have 3 weeks off 3 different times in addition to summer? Substitute teachers also rely on income and get paid for the days that they work. They will turn to other districts when they can consistently work through a traditional school year. When I attended the town hall meetings, attendance at Manual and Peoria High were minimal. The families that did attend repeated that they knew nothing about the proposal and that they were against it. The stakes are too high to move forward with something that many families in our community would find out after the fact. The final town hall meeting overwhelmingly had comments and concerns against the balanced calendar, which brings me back to SEL. All teachers and family have been through trauma in this last year. We need nothing more to move forward with consistency and normalcy for everyone. As intercessions were discussed, students may or may not be at the same schools. They may or may not have transportation. And students would be placed with different teachers. Students need consistency. Thinking about our special education population also concerns me. How can we ensure we are meeting their accommodations and goals when they could potentially be with a different teacher each intercession? In closing, there are too many unanswered questions and hurdles to overcome. A balanced calendar is not the answer, not now, and not ever. We want people to move into Peoria, not out. Thank you for your time and consideration on this topic.
Our final speaker is Mrs. Brenda Wilson.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, Dr. Crott. My name's Brenda Wilson, and I'm a proud Peoria Public School parent of 2 children, one in middle school, one in high school. I've also been a substitute teacher in the district for over 10 years. When you couple the loss of interventionists and school coaches with the balanced calendar proposal, teachers leaving the district is a huge concern for me. Our students need 100% deserve interventions now more than ever. And during a year, with change after change after change, the last thing we need is more change. I know this has been in the works for years as I watch every board meeting since December of 2013. I feel that well-intended leaders simply have unrealistic hopes if this actually rolls out in 2022. I also know that our local real estate value has gone down significantly in recent years. Unless this is embraced by surrounding school districts, an unintended consequence of moving to a balanced calendar is likely to decrease our home values even more. Please take into consideration that lower home values equal lower property tax revenue coming in for the district. I've heard from a lot of parents, teachers, and even a few custodians who have expressed a strong disliking of the balanced calendar proposal. Many of our teachers live outside the district, therefore their children will be on a different school schedule. Isn't one of the perks of being a teacher having summers off with your kids? This proposal is giving people a push to look for jobs outside the district. Many are concerned about the ability to find quality childcare as well as the added financial burden they will be forced to endure as many teachers will not have breaks the same time as their children. It's hard to find evidence of the proposed model actually boosting academic achievement. Many districts who have used this model seem to revert back to traditional in a matter of years. According to USA Today, thousands of schools have tried year-round school since the 90s with hopes of raising student achievement to no avail. That state went from 1 in 5 schools using year-round schedule to 1 in 20 after seeing it did not pan out the way they hoped. From 1998 to 2005, 1,000 school districts in California made the switch and did not see a rise in test scores. They also did not see scores fall when they reverted back to the traditional model. Salt Lake City schools once embraced year-round schools until analysis showed that comparable local schools with traditional calendars had better test scores. They reverted back in 2011, and a spokesperson for their school district stated that the traditional calendar also saves money for the district. Other large districts trying this platform include Oklahoma City, Raleigh, North Carolina, Greater Las Vegas area, and Indianapolis. None saw test scores rise. I could keep going, and I'm happy to send you all the links to the articles I gathered this information from. On the first day back from spring break, just last Monday, during a substitute teaching assignment, my homeroom was talking about this while they were eating breakfast, so a group of 10-year-olds. And it was heartbreaking to listen to them because I could hear them talking about summer. And then they said, of course, Mrs. Wilson, are they really going to take our summer vacations away? It really hit me on another level as I thought about young kids trying to focus in the middle of July, riding to school on a hot bus. We all know how hot school buses are when the sun is shining outside and they know that the pools are still open. Will the kids really be focused the way we need them to be focused? There are so many opportunities happening for teachers and children over the summer. Some teachers move out of state to their second home over the summer, and they will likely leave if this passes. I know several that spend their summers out of Illinois. Children of single parents have the opportunity to live with their other parent in another city over the summer. How will this affect them? Internships, summer jobs like lifeguarding, summer classes, sporting camps, travel ball leagues, church camps, Boy Scout camps, I could go on. A high school parent just stopped me on Tuesday night in passing and said that her son, whom I used to teach Horizons Club, is devastated as he always looks forward to the annual church camp in Pennsylvania that he will no longer be able to attend. He has also worked extremely hard, I'm so proud of him, to become an Eagle Scout. He will also not be able to go to Eagle Scout camp, which is such a big deal. Please think of who this affects the most when you vote on this calendar proposal. And I realize I worded these differently in different parts, year-round, traditional, modified. It's all the same thing to me. They're not getting their full summer break. And please think, our kids have their whole lives ahead to work all year long. Let them have their summers just like we had ours. Thank you.
Thank you to all of the speakers tonight. We now have response to audience participation from Dr. Karat.
Thank you so much, President Shaw. And again, just wanted to thank everyone for coming out as usual and providing feedback. We heard about, there were three overarching themes: the balanced calendar, the bell schedule, and coaches and interventionists. And I think the committee have done a really nice job sort of giving an update in terms of where we are along the journey and next steps. So there's still some work to be done. Ms. Joanne, I heard you as well, and thank you for coming from Whittier. And everybody, thank you for coming. The childcare, my son also went to Valeska, and I was a principal at Whittier at the time, and so I get it, I understand it. Right now, all of the primary schools do have the ability to provide childcare, and so that would be a piece that would sort of be incorporated also. So as we continue along the journey regarding our calendar exploration, remember the three are traditional, modified, and balanced. And we got some additional input, and I know everybody's taking notes. So again, thank you, everyone. The bell schedule, I think it was, wasn't sure. That's Miss Sandy, maybe, regarding the bell schedule. And I'll tell you, one of the impacts of COVID that really negatively impact us was our ability to recruit and advertise, recruit, and hire drivers. And, you know, our staff will tell you, we couldn't compete with the unemployment benefits that they were. So they were like, no, thank you, we'll stay home for a while. And as a result, and that process, it's actually quite lengthy because you have to train and certification and those sorts of things. So in terms of the bell schedule, the 6-hour, the goal is to get back to the 7-hour day right now because of the impact, the negative impact and the hit that we've taken from this global pandemic and this serious pandemic. This is where we're starting, but it's just a start, and we're not going to end there. The goal is to get to the 7 hours. So we're picking up, things are picking up. So I anticipate that we will improve in that area as well. But it's, that's one of the downsides of the pandemic, honestly. And then as it relates to, and I don't know if Mr. Collins, if you want to add anything to that, if you're here, but you probably will. Is not here? He left, okay. So, and then the other piece regarding coaches and interventionists, I think we've talked about it for a while. Board, you've gotten an update, but just a quick update. We're all on the same page regarding the importance of and how valuable our coaches and interventionists are. They're amazing. They're most qualified, most trained, just super amazing. But at this point in time, the district needs their support in the classroom because of the great need. Many of our parents may not be in schools where children do not have teachers every day, all year, for years. And so we have all of that data, we have all of that information. So the idea is, and we designed that, we designed the coaching program, we designed the interventionist program, and we can, based on the need, we can say, hey, we needed you to support teachers, we needed you to support kids in a different way. And so we designed that, but now with 47 vacancies, it's like we need our coaches and our interventionists back into the classrooms. And so just an idea for a board, if our coaches and interventionists stay where they are for the upcoming school year, then that would further exacerbate the vacancies. Because remember, it's sort of an ongoing opportunity to be filled, because every year you have individuals who are retiring. You have, so there's always a replenishing need that's needed. So let's assume that the 14.5 coaches and the 13.5 interventionists stay put. Peoria Public Schools will have about 76 vacant positions that will need to be filled. So when everything is said and done, this is about our number one priority, and I've said it consistently over and over, is to ensure that each child has a qualified teacher in that classroom to call his or her own. And then everything else is really secondary. So some schools are suffering, some areas are suffering, and overall, we have to look out for the entire district overall and replenish those needs. So those are the balanced calendar, bell schedule, and coaches and interventionists. Those were the three big bullets that I was able to pick up from the comments that we received from our guests this evening. Thank you, President Shaw.
Thank you, Dr. Karat.
President Shaw, if I could ask a question. I think we somewhat rudely cut off Mrs. Christensen. We usually don't stop that. We usually ask permission from the board if she could use another minute or two. I would like to offer that privilege to her now, if she's still here.
Oh, I'll send it to you in an email.
Okay. I just thought, thank you.
Thank you. We have an item number 8, approval of minutes from December 14th, 2020 and March 22nd, 2021, open session. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please call a roll?
Mrs. Costick? Mr. Cost?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Walton?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
Have 7 ayes. Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 1 under informational items, return to school plan update, Dr. Karat.
Yeah, what I did is I sent that to you overall as a board, a weekly update. So things are going very well. We know as a county, positivity rates are spiking up, and we're solid with our mitigation strategies. I think that's probably the one that we're monitoring closely. We continue to have the robust testing, so we're really, really ahead of the curve compared to other districts. And so we have the PCR testing, we have the antigen testing, and just going through the process. The COVID committee is doing a really nice job. So we'll definitely continue to keep you updated. And we know in our community, I'm reading more and more of the younger people are getting infected. So I would tell the kids, continue to be safe and follow all of those guidelines that we're teaching you. And then the other thing too is, I think, I don't know if Mr. Claus had it, but one of the board members announced on Wednesday that we work very collaboratively with the health department. So every time they call me and ask if we can use a building to provide access to Johnson & Johnson or Pfizer or Moderna to your community, we never say no. We're always working collaboratively with them. And I'm working with Unity Point and Andrea Parker also to figure out how they're going to roll out the vaccination to, because as of Monday, every 16-year-old and older, today? Yep, thank you. Thank you. Will be eligible to get the vaccination. Obviously, parents have to be involved at that stage, but any opportunity we get, or if we have an opportunity to provide our buildings, and I agree, I said to Andrea, Ms. Parker, we were open to opening up our facilities so that they can provide that service to our students and families as well. So that's the other area that will be coming down the pike, vaccination for 16-year-olds and older, or youth.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pratt. Is there any feedback from board members on the return to school plan? And at some point, we should probably stop calling it the return to school plan.
I know.
It's ongoing operations now. Hearing no feedback from board members, moving on to proposed expenditures over $2,500. Questions for Mr. Willis? Seeing none. Report of request under the Freedom of Information Act and the status of such requests, Dr. Karat.
I know it's in there somewhere. There's just all these papers. I have letters from kids as well, so thank you, President Shaw. I apologize for that. I did find it. Since our board meeting reports on March 22nd, 2021, we received 0 requests. There were no pending requests noted on March as well. All of those were completed, so we've received 11 requests for this calendar year at a cost of $550. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karat. We are now ready for the consent agenda. Vice President Wilson.
Yes, thank you, President Shaw. The consent agenda consists of the following items. Item 1, gifts to school district. 2, human resource report as amended. 3, update salaries and regulations for auxiliary personnel, fiscal year 2020-2021. Item 4, Richwood Science Lab. Item 5, 16-foot box trucks. Item 6, Richwood's food service equipment. 7, staffing, reassignment of coaches and interventionists. 8, renaming of a school. 9, verbatim audio recording of contract negotiating sessions with the Peoria Federation of Teachers. And that is the entirety of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Vice President Wilson. Are there any items that board members would like pulled for a separate vote?
Number 8.
Mr. Walther, number 8.
Number 7.
Mrs. Ross, number 7.
Number 9.
Number 9, Vice President Wilson. Any other items? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda with the exceptions of items 7, 8, and 9?
Second.
Been moved and second. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda with the exceptions of items 7, 8, and 9? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costa? Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
We have 7 ayes, motion carries.
Is there a motion to adopt item 7?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Mrs. Ross.
Let's pull that for a separate vote, so it would be a part of the consent agenda.
Okay. Any discussion on item 7? Mr. Walden?
Yeah, I was one of the 2 board members who proposed this, keeping the coaches and interventionists. I truly understand where Dr. Karat is coming from with the number of vacancies that we have. I think Dr. Ike will know that almost every meeting that we have, I ask for what the total number of vacancies are out there. But having listened to the coaches and interventionists, I think we're going to do more harm by taking an interventionist who will now be in a classroom affecting 20 or 25 kids when in fact she, and it's mostly she, would be helping teachers and maybe 200 kids. And this is a tough call, and I understand that. But I think in listening to the people who are interventionists and coaches, what they've done and what they do, I think we should be working at doing more recruiting than we're doing to offset this. And I think we're gonna. I think there's a danger of us losing some of these teachers that have been interventionists, and that. So it's a concern. So my proposal is to keep the interventionists and the coaches in the positions they are.
Other comments on item 7? Dr. Rankin?
Yeah, I agree with what Mr. Walther has said. One of the questions I asked last time is how many of these interventionists and coaches will stay in these positions? And there wasn't really an answer because a lot of the coaches that have spoken to me or have spoken at the meeting value their time helping multiple educators and more students than in one classroom. So having these 20 or 30 teachers fill vacancies is not guaranteed. And these are qualified teachers. These are not paraprofessionals with a paraprofessional license. These are qualified teachers. Most of them are at master level, and they are providing mentoring, coaching, support to not only teachers who need it, but also to multiple students. And then additionally, I think it goes back to some of what the Peoria Federation president said about the trust and transparency, that it was an understanding at negotiations and bargaining when interventionists and coaches were placed on a CELIS, that they would be able to have their positions back. And so I think that is just clumped into many of the other reasons why I supported Mr. Walther with this.
Other comments on item 7? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costick? No. Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
No.
Ms. Strauss?
No?
President Shaw?
No.
We have 3 ayes, 4 nays, motion fails.
Is there a motion to accept item number 8?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Waller.
This is, with all due respect to Mr. Wilson, a technical issue. This proposal says the Board of Education approved the renaming of Thomas Jefferson Elementary School on 918 West Florence to Reverend Dr. Cordy Tyndall Vivian Elementary School, maybe also referred to as Reverend Dr. C.T. Vivian School. There are 2 points I have in this, and it may be delaying the inevitable, but under Board Policy 4.152, it's the naming of school buildings and facilities in honoring of individuals. And so there's 3 paragraphs, but the last paragraph says, all recommendations for the naming of building, facilities, and honoring of individuals with plaques shall come to the Board of Education as a recommendation from the Building Committee of the Board of Education. Now, the Building Committee is made of Ms. Kostick and I, and what we did propose last time was we would do an order of what school would come first. And we did agree, as I recall in those minutes, that Thomas Jefferson would be the first one. This goes beyond just that naming, it goes into the renaming part of that. And when that was sent to the superintendent and to Mr. Shaw, there was only one person that signed that recommendation, and that was Mr. Wilson. I have been told in the 5 years I've been here to get an item on the action agenda, there takes 2 board members. And so that's why Ms. Ranking and I were on both the staffing reason of the coaching and verbatim audio thing. And so by having only one person, I don't think this is a valid time to vote on this. It may be at the next board meeting. So that's my point. It's a technical thing, so I'm just bringing that up with it. I'm just trying to follow our procedures.
Comments on item number 8?
President Shaw. I would like to ask the lawyer, because I've been told that since July when I started, that there always need to be 2 people who sign on a proposal that gets put forth before the board. And some of the things I have proposed have been shot down because I did not have someone to sign on with me. And so with this proposal only having 1 board signature, I would be curious as to why this is on the proposed consent agenda also. Again, due to a technicality.
I'm here. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
And I don't know exactly how this came to fruition, to be honest with you, because I don't sit on the board. I'm sorry, the buildings committee. So if I could just get a little clarification, and I'm sorry to do this. It's usually easier to do this in person. If I understand you correctly, Mr. Walther, the discussion was had about renaming Thomas Jefferson, but this is just not in the order in which you wanted it to be presented to the Board of Education.
No, we were okay with the order. Thomas Jefferson was agreed upon at the last meeting that would be the first school we would discuss. The problem is there wasn't a recommendation from the building committee to make it C.T. Vivian, and that's what our policy, I know you have access to our policy, but it's 4.152, and it's the last paragraph.
Yes.
And the second thing, I agree with Dr. Reinking. We have not been able to present things as a sole signator to present to this board, and Vice President Wilson did that. He was a sole signator. He did not have a second signator to be on there.
I guess how did it, from a practical standpoint, how did it come to Mr. Wilson as opposed to the building committee? Did you all just?
No.
I mean,
Mr. Wilson just
it just did not come from the building committee.
Right, it didn't.
Yeah, that was just a request from myself, to put that on there. I mean, in the future, I can get 2 signatures and put it back on there.
Okay, and I would just say, in keeping with policies and procedures, I would table this until the building committee, if they've made the recommendation, fine, but until we have 2 signatures.
So Frazier, can I ask a question really quick?
Sure, whether or not I know the answer is
That's okay.
always up for debate.
So
but
in order
sure.
to follow board policy 4.152, is that the policy number? Okay. So in order to follow that, which is the name is recommended by the building committee, does that mean that when it's put forth before us, that Mr. Walther and Ms. Costick have to sign it since they're the 2 that are on the building committee? No, that doesn't mean that. Okay. Ms. Ross answered it for me. Yeah.
Okay. Good job, Ms. Ross.
So I would move to table this.
Second.
It's been moved and second to table item number 8 until we have 2 board signatures, 2 board members. Oh,
It
from
needs to go
committee.
to the committee.
And we're meeting on Wednesday, by the way, at 4 o'clock. So.
Okay, and I thought we had, as a board, decided to move forward with an open process, and that open window was from February 22nd to March 22nd. I thought that was the purpose of that, was to collect the information.
I know that you had told, that's what, when I spoke with you, you were telling me about that. But the process is having to go, to the building committee, and then the recommendation made and presented to the board. Am I right, or am I
You're right.
talking Greek? Right. The table it, yeah.
Okay, it's been moved and second to table item number 8. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Costick? Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross? President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Item number 9, is there a motion to accept item number 9?
Moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept item number 9. Vice President Wilson.
Yes, thank you, President Shaw. So I was under the impression that we had met with PFT leadership, and they wanted us to hold off on this agenda item. I mean, I support it, but I don't think now is the time to vote on it due to, waiting to get feedback on how to and when to proceed with this agenda item. So, that was my impression from leaving the meeting. Am I correct?
That is correct, Vice President Wilson. In fact, let me bring up my notes on item number 9. So this was something I suggested at the March 22nd meeting to avoid a future situation where both sides have a different account of what was agreed upon in negotiations. Both sides would need to agree to recordings, and we were asked to give the union some time to discuss it internally. So what I'm asking for a motion to table item number 9 until the union comes back with a response. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to table item number 9, verbatim audio recordings, until we have a response from the union. And please call the roll.
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross? President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
We are at the deliberation agenda. We have item number 10. Item number 10 is policy 590, abused and neglected children reporting. Proposed action, Peoria Board of Education approve the proposed revisions to policy number 590. Revisions are necessary to bring a policy up to date with the current requirements, practices, and administrative guidelines. An updated administrative policy is also included for approval. Is there a motion to adopt item 10? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on item 10? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin? Aye. Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Item number 11, amendment to policy number 7:340, student records. Proposed action, Peoria Board of Education approve the proposed revisions to policy number 7:340. Proposed revisions are necessary to bring the policy up to date with current requirements, practices, and administrative guidelines. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on item number 12? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin? Aye. Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Item number 12.
12.
We're on item number 12, policy number 7:50. School admissions and student transfers. Proposed action that Peoria Board of Education approve the proposed revisions to policy number 7:50. Proposed revisions are necessary to bring the policy up to date with current requirements, practices, and administrative guidelines. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Then moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin? Aye. Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Item number 13, policy, amendment to policy 3:60, administrative responsibility of the building principal. Proposed action that the Peoria Board of Education approve the proposed revision to policy number 3:60, and these are necessary to bring the policy up to date. Is there a motion to?
So moved.
It's been moved, seconded. Is there any discussion on item number 13?
Yes.
Mr. Walden?
We're doing this with a lot of trust on the policy committee, which I still have, but I would just like to have us, being the board, set the full procedures that we've had for these last 4 items, because all we're doing is saying we're agreeing to making changes, and I don't know what those changes are, and I'm sure they're fine, but I'm not going to hold this up for that, but I would like to see just the full printout of that. If policy committee or the legal counsel could send us just the full printed out version of these. With that, I'm speaking in favor of number 13.
Mrs. Ross?
Yeah, I believe these policies come from the state directly to you.
Yeah, they were attached.
Pardon me?
It says they're attached.
Okay, they're attached. Okay, they come directly from the state, and then we just update our policies based on theirs.
Thanks.
That's always been.
Other comments? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin? Aye. Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
And we are ready for items 14, 15, and 16. Vice President Wilson?
Yes, thank you. The proposed action is to, I'm sorry. I move that the expulsions be accepted as presented.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on item 14? Hearing none, Madam Secretary?
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin? Aye. Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, I'm sorry. I thought all of these were put together.
Oh.
Since
No.
it's-
Yeah, you should read them individually.
Okay,
So,
okay. I move that the expulsion be accepted as presented.
So item 15, there's.
Yep.
Is it? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on item 15? Hearing none, Madam Secretary.
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin? Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Item 16, I move that the expulsion be accepted as presented.
Second.
Yeah, you did. Is there a second? Oh, it's been seconded, okay. Is there any discussion on item 16? Seeing none, Madam Secretary.
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Presentations and suggestions by board members. Seeing none, reports from board committees. Mr. Walther?
Yes.
Go ahead. I don't care if you want to.
Oh, Vice President Wilson?
I was going to say the policy committee meets next on April 21st at 3:30.
Thank you, Vice President Wilson. Mr. Walther?
Building committee will meet on the 14th at 4 o'clock this Wednesday.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Walther.
What is the 15th?
And is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Those in favor? Those opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.